Hi there. My name is Pam Dunn. I am the founder of the Peaceful Project. I am also the owner of Your Infinite Life training and coaching company. And I am looking forward to talking with you today. My topic that I'm going to cover today is about self-care. And I am going to talk about specifically mental self-care. I will be doing 4 videos because in these unprecedented times that we're in, most of us are not doing an adequate job of taking care of ourselves. And I have learned that one of the major reasons why we aren't adequately doing a good job of that is because we have mistaken self-care for coping skills. So a lot of us think about self-care as, taking a bubble bath, going out to a nice dinner, drinking a glass of wine or a whole bottle, or eating candy, having a treat. There's so many things that we say about that to take care of ourselves. So while that may be one way to take care of yourself, there are important ways to stay on top of taking care of ourselves. Taking care of ourselves shouldn't happen when we've reached our threshold or when we've gone over our threshold. So take a moment now even to consider your threshold. How many times in the last few months, few days, few weeks, have you actually reached your threshold? And do you even know what that is? You see, one of the things that you want to understand is that when we are stressed, worried, anxious, irritable very easily, cranky, annoyed at things that, we later judge ourselves for being cranky or annoyed with, that's an indication. It's a symptom. It's actually a symptom that we have crossed our threshold and that we are not doing a good job of balancing taking care of ourselves. So taking care of ourselves, adequate self-care happens mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. I'm going to cover mental in this video. So mental is how our thoughts affect our behavior. When people feel better, they'll do better. And so understanding your threshold and getting proactive about taking care of yourself mentally means that you'll be stressed less, actually. And you'll even be able to understand and feel and sense when that comes up. During these times, and when things are challenging or we're involved in a big change, we aren't very good at giving ourselves a break or giving ourselves a rest or even taking a look at, where am I out of balance? You see, if we have a goal of not being stressed or not being overwhelmed or even taking care of ourselves or getting through a challenging time, we don't rise to the level of our goals. That is not how we work. We actually fall to the level of our system. And if you want to be somebody who's seen as being in charge of your life, being able to handle chaos, being stellar during challenging times, well, then you have to begin identifying yourself with someone who takes good care of themselves. And that you don't allow for those excuses, even though it's true that, oh, I'm just hangry, or I'm under a lot of stress, or I'm overwhelmed. While all those things are true, walking away from a situation where we did not behave in a way that measures our magnificence when we walk away saying something like that, we actually don't feel better about ourselves. So I'm going to give you some ideas on how to get clear and proactive and practiced in a system of mental self-care. So we have about 50 to 75,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of thoughts. So I first recommend do not even begin to try and be in control of your thinking. We are not in control of our thinking. We can be in charge of what thoughts we decide to engage in, though. So often, without our awareness, the way that we work is all of a sudden we're down the spiral of discouragement. And we're engaged in the worry or the stress, the feeling around that thinking. When we weren't even aware that we actually engaged in a discouraging thought, and then the discouragement took the lead. That's the problem with our thinking a lot of times. And that we don't understand that if we begin to practice the concept of encouragement meaning not just pats on the back, but encouragement is to give ourselves the courage to do what we say we want to do. And that often means that we cannot engage in the thinking that says we're not good enough, we're not happy enough, we're not doing enough. We should be doing it better, all the shoulds. So again, we can be in charge of what thoughts we engage in, not with our thinking. So what I'll often do is I'll remind myself, oh, that's just a thought. I'm going to move on. I'm going to think about something else. I'm going to get busy doing something else. And just let it go. And if you let it go, then the feelings that were occurring because of that type of thinking, they'll dissipate as well. The other thing that I recommend you do not do is to start that habit or get into that habit of taking a negative thought and turning it into a positive. Don't do that. That's actually engaging in the negative thought. So don't substitute thinking. Don't try and turn it around. Simply let it go. I know so often my clients will say to me, that's so much easier said than done. And I completely agree with that. But remember, small measures make big changes. Habits happen not because we're focused on a goal. Habits happen because we decide that we want to be identified as somebody who takes good care of themselves. And so when we identify as somebody who takes good care of themselves, we will start practicing engaging in thinking that serves our magnificence, our brilliance. So understand that if you're all of a sudden or gradually feeling that stress, that worry, you're snapping and you just don't like when you're doing that, and you're giving excuses for the way that you're behaving. You want to understand that you are most likely engaged in the feeling of your thinking. Think about some of the challenges that you're currently facing. When you walk into that challenge and you put your, theoretically, put your head down and get busy moving through the challenge, there isn't time for stress and worry. You're engaged, you're in the present with that challenge and moving through it. It's afterwards, or sometimes before we actually engage in it, that we start engaging in the thinking of it. Or we discourage ourselves by saying we should have done better. Why couldn't we have done it better? That wasn't enough. rather than acknowledging ourselves for the fact that you actually are moving through challenges in an amazing way, and in every moment doing the very best you can. The very best that you are is the best that you're giving in that moment. That is true always and in all ways. Yes, afterwards, do you sometimes see improvements you could have made? Absolutely. Do not look at those improvements that could be made until you take the time to acknowledge yourself. Even if it's 10 seconds, you deserve that. You deserve to take care of yourself in that way. I encourage you to start a small habit that will create big change. And that is every morning upon waking, tell yourself 3 things that you love about yourself. And then in the evening, when you're getting ready for bed, tell yourself 3 things that you appreciate about yourself that you did that day. We are so often engaged in what we didn't get done on our list. What isn't happening. That's a habit. So let go of that. Stop doing that habit and start creating a new habit that is taking care of yourself in that way. It seems minor at first. It seems like, why am I doing this? It seems like you're not going to remember to do it. And that's true. You'll forget at times. But when you do remember, do it. Create a system. If there's more people in your household, create the system of everybody doing that. It's amazing how things change. See, that allows the encouragement to take the lead, not the discouragement. We cannot be in control of everything in our lives. We all know that, even though we try to imagine that it's different. But we can be in charge. We can be in charge of the way we think about what's happening. We can be in charge of the way that we feel about what's happening. We can be in charge of the way we behave. And that's what I mean by that. And that's encouraging, because at the end of the day, even if it was the most challenging day you've had in a long time, you can find at least 3 things that you did well, even if it's to say, I made it through that day, and I'm going to get up and do it again tomorrow, because I identify myself as somebody who can move through challenges. So move away from those questions that you ask yourself, like, why am I not doing better? Why am I not doing enough? Why? Don't ask why on those questions, because you can see if I ask myself, why am I not doing better? I'm going to look for the answer of why I'm not doing better, and then that discouragement leads. Instead, ask yourself, why is this important to me? Focus on more purpose. When you focus on purpose, it brings you back to who you truly are, and that begins to lead. Now, I'm here to tell you that this is a practice, and so don't discourage yourself by even thinking that you can't do this. Remember, small changes, small measures make big changes. So do small things. If you only have one thing that you love about yourself that morning, at least do that one thing, and let go of the thinking that you should have more. One of my favorite stories is, I'm going to read it to you. It's called The Wolves Within by David Griffith. A young boy asked his grandfather, "It is as if there are 2 wolves inside me. One is good and does no harm. He lives in harmony with those around him and does not take offense when no offense was intended. He will only fight when it is right to do so and without discouraging others. He seems confident and in charge of his life. But the other wolf, he is full of anger. The littlest thing will set him into a fit of temper. He fights and discourages. He cannot think clearly because of his anger. It is hard to live with these two wolves. He is constantly, this one, is constantly reminding me how I'm not doing it well or correctly or not doing enough. I don't know how to live with these two wolves inside me, for both of them try to dominate my spirit. The boy looked intently into his grandfather's eyes and asked, "Which one wins, grandfather?" And the grandfather wisely answered, "The one I feed." So which one will you feed? Remember to feed that encouragement. You are an amazing, compassionate, wonderful human being that faces challenges and has faced challenges and will continue to do so with your best self forward. So acknowledge that. Let go of that thinking that does not serve that brilliance. Remember, every morning, 3 things that you love about yourself, and at the end of the day, 3 things that you appreciate that you did that day. That will keep you present to the now, rather than present to your past or present to your wishful thinking in the future. Have a great time practicing. And when you feel like you're practicing that well enough, we'll move on to self-care with your feelings emotionally, self-care physically, and self-care spiritually. And if you want some more tips, you can always go to www.yourinfinitelifeonline.com and sign up for the weekly Your Infinite Solutions to inspire you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you.